Hello, weebs and normies. Welcome to the Anime Club. I'm Graham.
And I'm George.
All right, everybody. This is our very first episode of our new series, TAC Time, where we're going to sit down with some content creators, have a nice little chat with them, talk about all sorts of different stuff. Since this is our first episode, a little intro. I'm Graham. I live in Japan. I'm a total weeb, otaku. I've loved games and anime for basically my whole life, from Cat Girls to Dark Souls. I pretty much love it all. And on our channel, we have a little special thing going on where I am a weeb and I have my weeby takes, and we have our normie counterpart over here.
Yes, my name is George. I don't live in Japan. I live in America. Graham, since almost like the first day I met him, he tried to get me to watch anime with him. And I was like, bro, anime's cringe. What are you talking about? No way. Fast forward, I don't even know how many months it was, but fast forward a long time, I finally conceded. I was like, okay, I'll watch Attack on Titan. I'll watch a couple episodes. I'll tell you I don't like it, and then we can move on with our lives. Fast forward all these years, turns out anime's kind of cool. Some of it's still cringe, a lot of it, but there's also some really cool and interesting stories to be found in anime, and it's turned out for the best, thankfully.
For the best, absolutely. Well, for our first episode here on the channel, we had an Uma Musume stream recently, and we had some very special content creators swing by, and so we wanted to have one of these content creators as one of our first guests on TAC Time. We have someone who's been covering horse racing, not the Uma Musume kind, but the real life horse racing. So our first guest, of course, we're going to have in is SketchyTheHorseGuy. So welcome, Sketchy, to TAC Time.
Welcome.
Hello, everybody. Happy to be here.
Yeah.
Glad to have you.
Yeah, so Sketchy, my first question for you is, in our preliminary conversations coming up to us sitting down for TAC Time, you had mentioned that it was a little surprising to me that you're really not that big into anime, which is totally fine, but I was quite curious. I wanted to know two major things then. One, of course, was how and why you got into real horse racing, and how you decided to turn this into like an anime, well, not anime, but a YouTube channel, and what your kind of goal and purpose was for turning it into like a YouTube thing. Because I'm assuming, and maybe you can explain this, that there was the horse racing hobby first, and then it kind of migrated into YouTube, is my assumption.
Yes. So, all right. So I can try and split this into kind of three different kind of story beats. So first is discovering horses and horse racing. The second is making YouTube videos, and the third is trying to integrate Uma Musume into my content. Because those are three very different kind of segments of my horse racing life. So first up, horse racing itself, the actual bug, started when I was 6 years old. Originally, I did therapeutic horse riding. That was the first part of it. And after that was a recommended thing for me. Then came actual horse racing, because my grandmother, who wanted to relate to me, decided to show me a horse race, because she had gone to the horse races in the 70s in New York with my mother.
That's cool.
When she was younger. So she showed me it, and it just kind of was an instantaneous thing. And I was in love immediately, and my consumption of it consisted of books, television, like watching the broadcasts, and reading. I was just enraptured, and it's such an old sport. It was a very unique passion for someone my age that no one shared, especially because I went to a state, or I lived in a state that did not have horse racing. But then came YouTube itself. So YouTube was originally my first way of consuming horse racing for me. One of the first ways I did it through very low quality videos, but YouTube was also a place where people re-uploaded old documentary clips from horse racing, and that was kind of the way that I slowly started to kind of gather some of my knowledge along with books. YouTube videos, I had a different YouTube channel about a different subject that I had started making videos on for a few years, but then the idea of making a horse racing channel really started to pick up in my mind. I was like, I like this too, I gotta try this. And it really kicked off when I decided to start making videos about the Kentucky Derby in 2019, when that was coming up. And when I did, I was like, hang on, I would have been 14 years old.
14?
Yes, 14. I would have been 14 when I started really trying.
Wow.
And when I made the kind of profile about the Kentucky Derby, the video did better than I thought. Now, keep in mind, for me, success was a lot smaller. It was about 600 views. But for me, that was the
Honestly,
big
that's
first...
success for us, too.
That's success for us too. We're not that big.
That was my first real iota of success, and that was my first try, and that encouraged me to kind of keep going. It started out as a side channel, but then eventually, as I got more serious about horse racing itself, and eventually even chose it as my college career, I decided to really focus on that being my main YouTube channel. Now, where Uma Musume comes into it, it starts actually in 2018 when the original series comes out.
Okay.
The first season, because when I'm one day just surfing and looking at Japanese horses, instead of seeing a horse, I see a woman, and I go, "What the hell is this shit?" Excuse my language. I'm just like, "What is this?" I was so perplexed and confused. I was almost disturbed that someone would think of this concept.
Honestly, kind of same when Graham first introduced it to me.
Yeah,
so
I was in
funny.
George's position figuring out about this. And I didn't really... I watched it once, and then I didn't think about it for like 2 years. Then I decided to revisit it to do a review on my channel.
Did you watch
You go
the
first.
whole first season, or just like an episode?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
the entire first season. I am not a quitter.
Fair.
That's great.
But I completed the first season in 2019, then did it again in 2021 when I decided to start making more media reviews. But it was supposed to be a one-off, and I thought it would blow up, but it didn't, because I actually misspelt it Umamasame, not Musume. Whoops.
Oh no.
So I didn't think about it for a while, but then years down the road, I had been making videos for a while. I'd been getting better and better, making more horse racing history videos. And then I find out, oh my God, it's popular again because of the global release.
Right.
And
Yeah.
and even by this point, even though the years had softened me from my more confused youth, it was still kind of a culture shock. But the more I got into it, the more I studied it, the more I realized this is a golden goose. This is something that I've been really waiting for. Something that makes horse racing palatable to the younger mainstream audience.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So very quickly I realized that this weird ass show really has incredible potential, and that instead of running away from it, I needed to embrace it. Embrace it enough, I even made it my college final project, and kind of retooled my content around educating new younger fans about the IRL horse lore, as one way to put it.
Sure.
So that's kind of the three arcs of it. Horse racing all the way to where we are now, talking to you guys.
Sure. Yeah.
Wow. Uma Musume sparked all that. That's that's amazing. Because I actually, to be 100% transparent, I saw on your X account, or maybe it was on your YouTube, your like capstone. It was like your college capstone where you were talking about how Uma Musume is like bringing a wider audience or a broader audience to the horse stuff. And I related to that because like horse racing is a thing that I've just been aware for like forever, but it was never a thing that like called to me. I don't know. Maybe I just never understood it. I associated it a lot with like, maybe this sounds like weird to say, but like high society and like gambling too, which, you know, don't always, well, actually they do kind of coincide a lot. But anyways, Uma Musume.
That's not weird at all. That's just the truth.
Yes. Yeah. And
There you
Uma
go.
Musume, like it put the story of these horses like in front of me, and I started to appreciate, you know, the sacrifice. And I have a lot of questions about like the jockeys and like the horses and stuff that we can get into later. But I was like,
ears.
wow. Yeah. Like, yes. Yeah. Like these stories are amazing. The fact that the show is able to take real race results and like, sometimes they, you know, showcase the drama a little more than probably existed, but other times, like we just watched the season 3 at the time of recording this, and like the finale was wild. Like the fact that like Kitasan's Black's last races went the way they did, I was just like, dude, reality is greater than fiction sometimes. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I believe it. Speaking of Kitasan Black, actually, that is one of the few times that I actually, when I was younger, that was one of the few racing stories that I actually grew up following.
Wow.
Kitasan Black was one of the first Japan Cup horses I actually watched. Now, because of time zone differences, I'd basically wake up the next morning after a big Japanese race and watch the replay, and that's how I'd be caught up. But Kitasan Black, when he was favored for his first win in the Japan Cup, his only win, that was when I first heard the name. I was looking at the Japan Cup, and he was the favorite. That was my introduction to Kitasan Black, and then by extension, Satono Diamond. But, you know, this was as real horses. This was way before the show ever came out. This was like the show itself. So, you know, I can kind of really kindle that without even watching the season. You know, like I really appreciate that because this was like part of my younger years. You know, I was, you know, waking up the following morning and I saw, oh man, my favorite horse didn't defend his title, the Cheval Grand. And
that's crazy. Huh.
All the way until his final race in the Arima Kinen, where it was like, you know, like, it was like, hey, he went on a winner. Perfect.
That's interesting. So you were watching Kitasan Black's like races in real time, essentially real time, like you were recording, but you were watching them as they were generally happening.
Yeah, I was following the career of Kitasan Black, not super closely, but close enough where I was like, this is the best horse Japan has to offer. You know, he was one of the first Japanese horses to really introduce me to kind of the awesomeness of the group, along with Gentil Donna. I caught her at the tail end of her career. Epiphanea, who you may not know that name immediately, but you may know him better as the son of Cesario.
I don't know Cesario either. My very limited horse knowledge is limited to Uma Musume characters.
Only, unfortunately.
Cesario is an Uma Musume character, but only in the Japanese version of the game.
Okay.
So that's where the kind of divide is. But all you need to know is that Cesario was a great Japanese mare, won the Oka show, and then went. Actually, not the Oka show. I think it was the Yushun Himba, the Oaks, and then she won the American Oaks, a $1 million international race that Cygames recently sponsored, and was the first time that a Japanese horse had won an American G1 race.
Oh, so she does that. That's cool.
Never runs again, and then as a mother, she gives birth to Epiphanea. Epiphanea then wins the Japan Cup, so she's as good of a mother as she was a racehorse.
Dang.
Gotcha.
And then I think actually Museum Mile, who won this year's Arima Kinen, I think they also trace back to Cesario. I might be wrong on that. I'm doing this off of memory.
You're totally fine.
I mean, your knowledge is fantastic. I don't remember like lots of things that well. So
yeah, we watch the show and we sometimes can barely remember just the names alone. So you're doing way better than us. I wanted to bring it back to your college, I guess, project that you had done. I'm really curious about this because I really liked the angle that you were kind of going for of like Uma Musume is bringing horse racing to a new generation. And for George and I, and probably others, like we've always, as George said, we've always associated horse racing with, you know, high society or gambling or stuff like that. The idea of following horse racing from a story perspective, from like getting into the drama, I guess you could say, of the horses and their wins and their losses is kind of interesting. Do you feel like I know this was just a college project, but do you feel like this has some legs to kind of take more, take the American horse racing by storm, or maybe even the European? I'm sure you're following that to some degree. Do you think that this is going to be something that is adapted in other regions, or is this, you feel like this is just going to be a Japanese thing?
Well, half and half. So it's not going to be a Japanese thing, and the reason why I know this is because of the, well, not bordering, but more closer Southeast Asian racing circuits. Now, Southeast Asia is a different region than Japan, but it's closer than, say, Europe and America, the full-blown West. But over there, Southeast Asia, especially Thailand, a little bit the Philippines, and especially Indonesia, it's been a 180 really. It's been practically effortless for younger generations to start
interesting.
in mass attending major events and falling in love with their local horses. The biggest one I can say is Indonesia. Indonesia is incredible because what happened, it was a kind of a perfect storm. So Global comes out in June. In July, they have a Triple Crown horse on the line. A horse who had won the first 2 jewels of the Triple Crown, King Argentine, and he's running for it. But it was like, it's perfect timing. Of course it would have been cool anyway to have a Triple Crown winner, but no one was paying attention. And then all these people from Indonesia who were playing this video game were like, wait a minute, this is happening in my country.
Yeah.
So it became an absolute firestorm. That where the interaction with the broadcasting company for Indonesian horse racing, Sargaco, quintupled, and the horse won the race. So that was perfect. Oh yes, 5 times as many people were watching,
and
attendance.
The horse won. That's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, and the horse won. So this one example kind of was a perfect skyrocket. And the easiest way for me to tell is that as soon as I made a video about it, as an American, it got 250,000 views. It got more views than a lot of my UMA content did, even more than my video on Goldship. So
interesting.
And as the months go on, it hasn't really slowed down because they keep on finding new horses from their country to fall in love with the same kind of mindset that Uma Musume inspires, where they're focusing on the horse's personality, the background, the story, and not just winning a quick buck. Indonesia, especially as a Muslim country, forbids gambling. Gambling isn't even really a part of their angle. So about as Uma as they come is Indonesia. But that's one example. Now, for America and Europe, I think that there are ways to kind of microdose it, but I don't think it's going to be in the same dramatic way as, say, a closer country like the region of Southeast Asia, because it is a different culture. It's a different world. The customers and what they want in horse racing is a bit different. It is 100% very gambling centric, but horse racing has also always been a royal and storybook sport. Even the few most iconic horses that every degenerate gambler or regular gambler knows, it's because of a great story. That's what I mean by like hints of it. There are hints of, like, even if the focus is on gambling, there still is opportunity for great stories, but we've yet to really crack the code in fully modernizing horse racing storytelling in the West. And I think this is one easy opportunity to maybe bridge that gap if we play our cards right, to kind of speak the story in a language that a younger person can understand and feel a part of. I think there's definitely a bigger cultural divide in all of horse racing because it's seen as an older game, and younger people, it's both intimidating, maybe even a little unfriendly and unapproachable. But with this, all of a sudden, there is a way. So I don't anticipate like every horse track becoming Comic-Con. That's not how it's going to work.
True.
What is going to happen? What I hope is going to happen is that a couple of meetups at a bunch of tracks happen, organizing real coordination with all the local UMA communities that are near these tracks, and this has already happened to some extent. And they come one day, they have a great time, 50 to 100 people. They tell their friends, they post it on social media, gets a couple 100,000 views. It helps put the track more on the mainstream map. And after they tell all the stories, they all come back again. And all of a sudden, one time it's just a visitor. 2 times you visit, you're now a customer. So in America, at least, the place I know best, the big thing, in my opinion, is just it would soften racing's image as kind of an elitist gambling sport, and more as a sport that could be enjoyed for multiple reasons. and kind of what I think racing's perfect at, being a cultural melting pot.
Sure.
And just kind of giving racing also just a legitimate way to be viral again.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. Just even if it's in a niche subculture. So that's kind of my long rambling about it, is that it gives racing an opportunity to improve its reputation and also remind people that it absolutely exists, which is the silent killer of the sport. It's not the negative PR. It's not even the, just the down of handle. It's the fact that a bunch of people live in a highly populated area where there is a racetrack and they don't even know it exists.
Apathy.
Yeah, like it's with other sports, it's easy to like kind of relate to them because you can do it, right? Like you could go and play a basketball game. You could play a soccer game. And so there's that kind of like instant connection, but with horse racing, unless you can, have enough money to own a horse and like the upkeep and everything, it's very unapproachable in the participation regard. But the nice thing about Uma Musume is that it showcases the story of the horse, and like you just said just like a little bit ago, kind of the personality of each of the horses and all that stuff, which is, yeah, you don't relate to it in the fact that you can participate in it, but you start to kind of get a love for some of these horses. And that's something I wanted to kind of ask you about. I'm glad we have an expert here, because one of the things that's surprised me a lot in a lot of our comments and everything is how much personality some of these horses have and how smart they are. I didn't think, that they're like dumb per se, right? But it's one thing where you're like rooting for football players on a team and you've seen their career and all that stuff. And it's like, it's a human being. You can relate to that way better than you can with a horse. How much drive is there? Like, do we know in these horses to win? Is it 50% jockey? Is it 50% horse? Is it, 80-20? Is the jockey just there? Could you remove the jockey? Maybe this is kind of sacrilegious to say, but maybe almost make it like dog racing because the horses would kind of just go. What drives the horses to win?
Well, horses are naturally herd animals. That's kind of the big thing. That's why even when a horse throws a jockey off, they'll regularly
throw him off.
continue to run.
Wow.
Because that is the instinct of a herd animal.
Mm-hmm.
But now horses don't see competition in the same way we do, obviously. But horses, they're very emotional, very empathetic animals. If they know that a human, the person on their back, is disappointed, maybe a jockey is disappointed that they lost, they'll feel that. They may not know exactly what, but they'll empathize with the jockey and their grave disappointment, which people can maybe humanize to say that the horse knows that they lost. Now, horses absolutely can be competitive. There are a lot of stories of horses acting differently after a defeat versus a win.
Really?
That's amazing.
So how much of that is just an animal and how much of that is awareness of competition, I don't know. But what I do know is that horses have at least some perception of competition because, even in the wild, there's a social hierarchy to things. The lead stallion and whatnot. Now, horse racing is not about the lead stallion because, well, the mares are just as good as the boys. But
interesting.
There is a natural drive. Horses socialize, they play, even compete with each other. I mean, they're not that different from even dogs in a lot of the ways that they can empathize with people or the way they perceive things and also kind of their actions. They're not a one-to-one, but there's a good reason why the only other animal that can be registered as a service animal besides a dog is a miniature horse.
Interesting.
Yeah, because
they're that capable.
I noticed that I was kind of feeling that as we've kind of consumed our Uma Musume content and we've been learning about the horses, and I'm like, these horses are like some of the smartest animals ever, like akin to dogs, basically, which are some of the smartest animals ever. it's interesting that you make that parallel, and that parallel just generally exists with the service animals, that like horses can be so intelligent like that. It's been so interesting to learn about horses having so much more intelligence and personality than I ever expected before going into this.
Yeah.
Now, it's important also, on the other hand, to not fully humanize horses either,
True.
because that is one
Sure.
mistake that I think new Uma fans do make regularly, is giving the perception that horses do things in a fully conscious manner in the same way a human would.
Right.
Especially, like, say, with Gold Ship. Gold Ship's wacky antics, they are not as megalomaniacal as people think they are.
Sure. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Absolutely, like, there might be some truth that horse liked to do things his own way, and whatever was going on in there is a mystery. But the idea that all that was going through his mind was how to inconvenience all of us is just not true. He just perceived the world differently. When he was rearing up in that starting gate, he was fussing with another horse. He didn't know that he had a third Takarazuka Keenan on the line. He was focused on something else. It was less that he decided to screw over all those betters, and more that he was just distracted, which is a very real thing.
Yeah.
So like it's very important, like that horses will always perceive and do things differently from us. So trying not to fully humanize a horse's choices is also, I think, just as important, because while they definitely have incredible abilities for intelligence, there are also some things that, they're not going to tell you what 2 + 2 is,
Right.
but they can see in the dark better than we can.
Oh, wow. I didn't
There's
know that.
I guess, yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good point, not humanizing them. It's easy to do that when you watch Uma Musume, especially if that's your primary mode of consuming horse racing content. It's easy to kind of like graft more and more of that personality, because it is, the anime is much more human than the horses themselves. So it's easy to kind of do that. I think that's a good reminder of like, listen, at the end of the day, these are just horses, right? They're not actually, Uma Musume. They're not actually people on the other side. They're just horses. And so I think it's a great reminder to just kind of bring yourself back to reality at the end of the day, that they're, they are what they are. So
Yeah, I think it depends who you are, because like, again, I don't want to like sound like I had a negative opinion of horses. But this conversation, like I had horses, like at the bottom rung, right? But this is like brought them up in intelligence for me. Like, not obviously this conversation a lot, but also, all of our comments and stuff as we've gone through Uma Musume, because it's just, it's been incredibly interesting, like just learning about all this and learning about the intelligence of the horses. And one thing that I've been curious since day one, because we have things like Gold Ship and Sounds of Earth. And like I saw in one of your videos, like Skibbity Riz, like who is there like a rule? Like who comes up with these names? Is there like, have there ever been names that have been rejected, or they're just like, nope, you know what? This is your horse. Oh, there are.
Really?
Okay, interesting.
Actually, the name rejection is usually what inspires the creativity, because the original choices that people wanted dashed. So,
interesting.
one kind of very simple example is Secretariat was originally going to be named Deo Valente. It was rejected.
Okay.
Deo Valente means, I believe, God willing, but it was rejected because I believe it existed already to some extent.
Interesting.
There's rules that dictate that you can't have 2 horses of the same name during a certain period of time, or if it sounds too similar to another name that's already being active, even that is enough to say it is a disqualifier.
Wow.
Gotcha.
So they had like 5 names, with one of them including Deo Valente, and another being the name Secretariat, named after a person on the farm, and that was her role. Her role was Secretariat, which is an actual like title.
Yeah.
Some people forget that because of how popular the horse is, but but that's one example of the fact that like that name, like very well, the greatest horse that we know of very well could have been called Deo Valente if it weren't for naming rules.
Yeah.
Like we might see names like Skibbity Riz or Golden Shower or Bodacious Tatas or Filho de Puda or R. I could go on forever. And think that horse naming is lawless, but it is. And names like that are actually in circumvention of the laws. Pressure creates diamonds.
Ooh.
Yes. Yeah.
That's a great quote. Yeah.
That's what these incredible horse names are. Now, some horse names from hundreds of years ago, they absolutely were in a time where there was basically no rules.
Oh, no.
There are some names that would not fly today, like the aforementioned Filho de Puda, which in Portuguese...
George would know that.
Son of a... Yeah, we'll keep it here.
Yep, there we go. Perfect. See, thank you so much, George. You did all the good work for me.
Yes.
And that's just one example. Like, there are names I literally, like, can't even say. They're that awful.
There's profanity rules. Are there rules on like name complexity? Because I've seen at least one Uma Musume where I looked at the name and I was like, I'm not even going to attempt to say that. And I feel bad for the commentators that have to say that horse's name. So it made me curious, are there complexity rules of like, this name is way too difficult to say. You can't do this one.
That is definitely not a rule.
Really?
That's definitely not one of the rules. Like, if a name is hard to pronounce, honestly, tough luck. That's just kind of part of it.
What if it's too long?
Like, that is absolutely a rule. It's 18 characters with spaces.
Interesting.
But in terms of length, that is it. Now, there are certain like punctuations that you can't use. Like in quarter horse racing, you can use numbers. In thoroughbred racing, you cannot. You have to spell it.
Interesting.
So, but in terms of actual parameters, the only parameters you have in terms of length, and punctuation is you can't use numbers, and it has to be between 3 and 18 characters long.
Okay.
Now, there are more rules in between that, like copyright and profanities. But in general, like, horse names are both incredibly loose and very strict. So, yeah, pronunciation problems, that's never been an issue. Now, it's definitely common that a horse will have a name that gets constantly mispronounced. But honestly, at that point, that's the problem of the owner. And that's never been anything that's been considered. So yeah, like having a horse with a tongue twister name, that's just fun. Like, that's just a fun part of it.
Makes broadcasting fun, makes it interesting.
Interesting.
Like, I think you're probably referring to Sumo or Bara 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 Bara, which were running in the same race in Japan.
Oh no.
That was that was a infamous one. In America, we've had a few kind of infamous names. The one that doesn't sound all that bad until you actually really say it is Flat Fleet Feet.
Flat
Fleet?
Fleet?
Flat? Ah, crap. It's a tongue twister, that's why. I think it's... Hang on, let me look it up.
Sure.
Because the horse's name is purposely awful. Here we are.
Oh, no.
Yes, okay. Flat Fleet Feet.
Fleet.
No, the other way.
Nope. Flat Fleet
Feet.
Flat.
Now you see how evil that
feet.
is, right?
Oh no.
Yes. Yeah.
There you go, got it.
So if you're
Now
saying
see
it multiple times in a race, they're getting ahead or they're getting behind, like,
that's
jeez.
That's so funny.
That's the kind of stuff that happens, and that's kind of like part of the fun, really, to some extent. Like, you know that they're trying to get one on you. And you hold your ground, man. That's the great battle of any race caller.
That's so funny. Now, okay, Sketchy, going back to Uma Musume, do you think that we will ever get, either by Cygames or by another company that wants to do the same thing Cygames is doing, are we going to get an Umification of the general horses or horse racing or the association in the U.S.? Is this something that, like, you think that they're considering, or even if they're not considering, do you think this is a possibility? And will it happen by Cygames, or is it going to happen by, I don't know what the, in JRA is the Japanese Race Association in Japan. I don't know what it is in America, but is there an association that's thinking about this, or you don't think that they would ever consider? I'm so curious, like, will we get umification in America?
Well, they've definitely having American and non-Japanese based horses in the show has been flirted with. In Cinderella Grey, a fully American horse in Pay the Butler was integrated into the show, albeit with a fake name, Obey Your Master.
Okay.
But,
that's the name?
Obey Your Master.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
In Cinderella Grey Season 2, a fully American horse named Obey Your Master is in the show, who is based off of the real American Japan Cup winner Pay the Butler, who raced all but 2 times in America, not Japan. So they've at least flirted with it, having non-Japanese horses be introduced into either the game or the show, who by technicality get to be a part of it because they've had one start in Japan. Sure. The biggest, probably the highest profile example was Montja, who won the 1998 ARC. Against El Condor Pasa, and then lost to Special Week, the plot of Season 1.
Right.
Now, the fun thing about that is that the placeholder character of Bro E, used in Season 1, has been retroactively retconned because they actually later got the rights to Montja. So Bro E no longer exists. It's now Montja. But... so that's one part of it. So they've at least used the technicality that the only thing needed to have a character really be eligible is that they run in one Japanese race. So they've done that before. Done something Japan adjacent. Anything Japan adjacent, we'll give it a shot. But in terms of a full-blown American show based off American characters, I don't think so. The big reason I have my doubts is that, unlike Japan, America does not really have a single organization. Now, this is something that a lot of people don't really think about. So, Japan, it's very easy. Who runs horse racing? Oh, well, the Japan Racing Association. And then, for the other races, the National Association of Racing, the NAR. That's it.
Okay.
Hong
just
Kong,
the two.
it's just the Hong Kong Jockey Club. In America, there is technically a National Thoroughbred Racing Association, but genuinely, since the dawn of time, horse racing in America has been state by state. It's actually one of our biggest conflicts. So every single state in the United States has its own kind of racing association commission, rules,
different
all
rules.
Of it.
Wow.
And it's made, the idea of proposing to nationalize horse racing is something that has been attempted. Creating a national rule set is something that horse racing in America wants to do, but getting everyone to agree, well, it's just like getting America to agree on anything.
Very difficult.
I'm not going to talk about politics too deeply, but if you know anything about America, it's not different, whether it's the 2 parties in Congress or it's the 30 racing commissions in the 30-something states that hold any form of horse racing.
Sure.
Getting them to agree on anything is hard.
Right.
And the reason I bring that up is that it's a lot easier to kind of do things only through the JRA and get that officiated. Also, because JRA has government support. State by state government support. So getting, America to unite and say, let's make this show, that would be harder. It's just a different world in America. And I think also the idea of even just making an American animated horse racing show, the concept of Uma Musume is so, for lack of a better word, Japanese.
Yeah.
I mean,
true.
We don't really...
That's very true.
I mean, concepts like turning racehorses, machine guns, countries in World War II into women That's a very Japanese concept.
True. True.
We don't really, let's just say we don't really do that in America.
Yeah.
We don't do that
So-
here in America. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the countries, that's a good point. They've done countries, boats, weapons, concepts, historical figures.
jeez.
Everything can be turned into an anime girl. That's just how it works in Japan. It's great.
Yeah, that's just how it be. So all of this is to say that making kind of an American Uma Musume, unless it was done by Japan itself, I just don't think it could possibly work. Now, there's tons of fan art of American Musume, or Umerica, as some call it.
America.
And it's and even in my own server, like, I've seen so much Umerica art, and I think it's glorious.
Wow.
I wish it was that easy to like make a cool show that introduces all of our American Umas in a way that's digestible to new people. But I think that's just what fan art's gonna be. That's what fan art's for. If someone wants to make a fan manga about it, I think that's great. I think also with Japan's kind of copyright, getting the rights to even make a adjacent show could be a problem. I think of this especially from the perspective of like someone who was a fan of Godzilla for a long time. I mean, think about how long it took after the disaster of the 1998 Godzilla film for America to get the even blessing to make another one.
Sure.
And then every time they made another Godzilla film with another licensed Toho property, like Rodan or Mothra, they had to individually get the blessing to use that character.
Wow.
Now, I don't know how Cygames is in terms of copyright in that sense, but I think, with Japan's copyright laws compared to America's, I think the idea of a Umerica would be very difficult. I would love to see it happen and integrate it in some way, but I think also Japan has so many horse racing stories already that they already have their hands full integrating all of Japan's favorite racehorses and making stories about them. And then to focus on another country, I don't know how you could do it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sketchy,
Yeah.
you could be that guy. You could be the guy who brings all the states together and convinces them to make an American Uma Musume show. You could be the one. If I have faith in anyone,
hell.
it's you. Sounds like hell no.
Yeah, I mean,
That would be hilarious, ridiculous, and almost impossible. I would be so proud of if I could do that. I'd die happy. But
wow, listen to that.
You make it sound so easy. No, like even just getting people to agree that getting young new fans into the sport of horse racing is a good thing is already actually hard work.
What?
Wow. Really?
So yeah, genuinely, there is has been there is pushback about quote unquote letting weirdos into racing. Now I'm not gonna say it's
George,
super widespread.
unfortunately, George will agree with them, so we're not even going to go there.
No, hey, I'm gonna keep my mouth shut about that specifically. But this does bring up the question then, because like you were talking about, kind of these like grassroots things where like people show up to a racetrack because they fell in love with the story of a horse and everything, and you said it's so great. First time you're a visitor, second time you're a customer. Like how much need is there for like new fans to this sport? Is it kind of like a dying sport? Does it not need it because it's just so like well funded with gambling that you don't really need too many people? How's that work out?
All right, I'll answer this very bleakly. We really are in a big trouble. We
Oh, boy,
need a lot of help.
Interesting.
wow.
Okay, so it's a very long and complicated story of how we got here, but the big thing with horse racing is that horse racing is one of the few gambling sports that has kind of managed to kind of screw it up.
Oh no.
And the big reason why is because when horse racing was at its peak, from about the 1930s to the 1980s, it was the only sport in town. It was the place. You had to, if you were going to bet on a sport, you came to the track only. It's the only way you could do it. And it was a lot harder to say, bet on a baseball game, bet on boxing, whatever other sport you want. But then in the 90s and, up until today, the last 40 years, Well, think about sports betting. You know what that is?
Yeah.
Competition.
Yeah.
So sports betting's on the rise. That makes, people's gambling dollar more precious.
Mm-hmm.
And with horse racing slower to evolve, using the same technology and marketing tactics for the last 40 years, this new, hotter sports betting is more enticing to young new gamblers. People absolutely want to gamble, but in a different way than they did from their forefathers. So horse racing has to evolve from that. So because of that, less and less money has been bet on horse racing consistently for the last 20 years. It still has $11 billion dollars being bet on it, which is crazy to think about. But in its prime, it was almost double.
Wow.
It's kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah.
But the biggest problem is, I think, one of the big things I like to bring up is the fact that is, again, America being kind of a fractured country. For the longest time, when horse racing was the only game in town, every state just kind of dealt with themselves and competed with themselves and maybe the state next to them. Because back then, all you had to do was drive your car to the track nearest to you, and you'd bet there because it's all you could do.
Sure.
Then, in the 80s, you could bet off track. You could bet tracks around the world. So now all of a sudden, every customer in the United States could bet on any track they wanted. So all of a sudden, the gambling money gets more precious. Then sports betting comes in. So then all of a sudden, again, gambling money is spread thin. But now that every, state has been fending for themselves for so long, all of a sudden, now horse racing has to work as a collective to make a better product. Because now every horse bettor, with just their phone, frankly, can bet on any track they want.
Sure.
So they can afford to be picky. But also, in general, not, keeping customers has been hard for every track. Now, Kentucky and, Arkansas, their governments, their politics support racing greatly, so they're very strong. They're powerful, even. They're thriving. But horse racing and its circuits are now everywhere. A racehorse can easily, if it's in the mid-Atlantic, make a racing career where it travels from Maryland to Delaware to Virginia, maybe up to Pennsylvania to New York, all in a short span. So despite every state still kind of thinking of only themselves, and all this state-by-state basis stuff, horses are traveling everywhere. So it's a battle of a state-by-state battle versus the horse population and horses, going everywhere. Also, the horse population is half of what it used to be because of, economics in America.
Right.
It used to be about 40,000 every year. Now only about 17,000 get born every year.
Wow.
So now racetracks, the ones that are left, are fighting for less horses while also trying to market everywhere at once with less stuff.
Wow.
It's difficult. Racing is trying to do things 40 years ago without the assets that it had.
Sure.
And I guess the other big thing is in general politics. In places like Kentucky and Arkansas, the government's all on them, all beside them. That's perfect. California isn't getting anything. So with that, and that level of apathy means that it struggles. Even if it handles $750 million a year, it still can barely fund all its purses because it's a year-round thing. So, the government can subsidize and help fund racing, since racing no longer really funds itself. And subsidies have kept, otherwise unsuccessful industries like Pennsylvania, even parts of New York, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But states that don't get as much support, maybe Florida to some extent, New Jersey, California, which are big racing states, are also somehow perplexingly struggling. So it's the skeleton of racing and its major circuits that we've had for over a century is now very much being challenged, and it's horrifying.
Yeah, are you optimistic about horse racing, the future of horse racing in America, or do you feel like this is something that's going to continually decrease until these places that are struggling will disappear and only the places that are the strongest will survive? or is this something that will perpetually exist? It just like won't exist in as big a form as it used to.
I am always optimistic, but that's also because I'm young. Most people that are older than me have very harsh doubts about racing and its circuits.
Sure.
Some even believing that racing will either cease to exist in as little as 10 years, which I don't believe.
Wow.
Or that, or at the very least, that racing is continuing its very gradual recession. That's kind of the big thing, is that racing is in a steady recession. There are people in racing who have thought that racing would be gone for over 30 years, and guess what? It's still going. So
Sure.
clearly it didn't die as fast as some people thought, because racing is a stubborn son of a bitch, and that's how I love it. But the big thing is just using the time we have. Because
Sure.
the one thing that is true is that racing is uncertain. This is one good thing in a sea of, I think, concerning things in racing. And I don't plan on Uma Musume saving everything, but giving racing even a chance of being in some form of cultural relevancy cannot be a bad thing.
Yeah.
And can at least be one step in the right direction. Because, unfortunately, with racing draws a lot of cynicism, and part of that cynicism is that unless something is a catch-all, instant cure, like a cure for cancer, pretty much, then it's useless. Unless it immediately solves everything, then it's useless. But unfortunately, and celebrating even small victories is hard for people who have been jaded and
Sure.
beaten down by racing's disappointments for decades. So Uma Musume is what I would call a small victory. You get one small victory, it makes it easier to get a second one, then
Sure.
maybe a
Sure.
third. In the same way as first as a visitor, second time as a customer, just get, the hope is that you win more things than you lose.
Sure.
Because
Because you're not going to win everything.
can,
A series of wins, though, over time, even with some losses, that's the way you build. Like you said, like you can't just win the biggest cure cancer. You've got to win and take some losses. But the way to get to the top and to revive everything is to build off of those wins, even with some losses.
exactly, that's kind of the big thing. And the next 10 years are going to be incredibly important, because racing will definitely probably won't even look like how it is right now. But I will never say that racing will cease to exist. Because even with racing recessing in major metropolitan areas, which is the big concern, that racing land is too valuable, and that with its, state-by-state politics, that racing will continue to recess in major metropolitan areas and thus be out of the mainstream, smaller, more rural areas with casino funding are building new tracks and don't seem to have any interest in decoupling at the moment, which would be the big concern. Decoupling being making it so that casinos can build without the need of a racetrack. That's what keeps a lot of state racing industries alive, is that a
Interesting.
racetrack is
Gotcha.
coupled with a casino, and the casino money goes into racing, with the idea being that it'll help fund a good agriculture industry, which is what racing is. That is what the idea is on paper. So with that, rural states like Nebraska, Kansas, Wyoming have actually growing industries. With that mentality in mind. So to try and look at the glass half full, half empty, while metropolitan areas have definitely struggled and are in very dire straits, and we need to really focus, dig deep, and find a way to keep them going, because these are pastimes that have been here for over a century, and we need to preserve it for these major metropolitan people to have the opportunity to explore horse racing. I also will celebrate a small win, in the same way as Uma Musume is a small win by giving horse racing a social relevance. These new racing casino tracks, while far from perfect, it's a small win to have at least any form of racetrack be created, and thus improve a breeding industry, and thus maybe more horses can be born there. There's plenty of rural land there to have horses have children. Like Wyoming especially has really picked up. They went from 1 track to 4. They're getting more. They're getting more days. A new track's coming in now called Thunder Plains. That's a small victory. as cute as horse racing looks with Uma Musume, racing is a very sometimes painful sport, even for a joyous man such as myself, and it can absolutely, and it has to me, beat me to my knees.
Dang.
Oh, jeez.
So as Rocky Balboa once said, finding a way to get hit and keep moving forward is it's very important to remind yourself of your self-worth and
Sure.
And try to play all angles here. So well, it's definitely not the answer I wish I could tell you. I wish I could tell you that things are thriving right now. They're not. There's at least small windows at the end of the tunnel, and maybe if we can get enough of them, then maybe we can do something. Maybe racing may not be the way it used to be, but some way to exist.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
honestly, because real quick, like maybe this is a too much of a romantic notion, but like how you said, horse racing's been around for forever, and there's something. Even though before Uma Musume, I never interacted with it, even if we had just this conversation, just like randomly, and I didn't know anything about Uma Musume, and it was. Horse racing is dying, and there's a potential future out there where it doesn't exist anymore. Something about that makes me kind of sad, actually.
Yeah.
Like, I would love for it to continue existing, even if it was something I never interacted with, simply because it's like such an old sport. And I do think horses are just such beautiful animals that when you breed them for the purpose of racing, they become more majestic, I guess is the word I'm looking for. So yeah, it would be really sad to lose horse racing, I think.
It is tough, but I think that's kind of part of the battle that Uma Musume helps combat, is that the thing that you dealt with, even just knowing it existing and not really having the tools to kind of have it appear on your radar and be like, you know what, this might be a nice way to spend my weekend.
Yeah.
right.
Because horse racing has always been an identity crisis of being either a game just about gambling or sports entertainment. I think it can be both.
Sure.
But managing to achieve both tons of people betting, which helps fund racing, but also being a magnificent piece of entertainment that you can't get by just pressing a slot machine.
Yep, for sure.
Sure.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I wanted to ask about your YouTube channel and kind of what you're doing and the content that you're making, and more so just not just about the channel and the content, but I'm curious, like, what is the future of Sketchy as in you, not just your channel, but are you planning on working more on your channel full time? Do you want to grow it and expand it? Is there a type of content that you want to expand to, like more Uma Musume, or a type of content revolving around horse racing that you want to make? Or are you in your current like form that you want to be, you're just going to keep pressing forward? Or is there some other thing, like a different career in horse racing that you're interested in getting into, and that maybe you'll move towards that in the future? I'm really curious about that.
So for focusing on the future of Sketchy the Horse Guy, I've always considered the future of Sketchy the Horse Guy to be always making new videos. What they'll be about is going to be about what I feel like doing. Because Sketchy the Horse Guy, even in its current state of having 19,000 subscribers, which is incredible, thank you all so much.
Yeah, no kidding.
That's wonderful.
It is just a giant hobby. Like, it's a hobby, a side hustle. It's not my main source of income. It never will be. It is the place I express myself. And the way I express myself is talking about horses. So that'll always be the focus. Horse racing. Now, integrating that horse racing into a language that a lot of people understand is why I will make Uma adjacent content with it. But no matter what, and this sounds selfish, but it's the only way that this channel works, the videos will always be about me and what I want.
Sure.
And what I want, and what I want is to tell people about the cool world that I like to study, which is the world of horse racing. So in terms of what that will look like, coming up with ideas to make horse racing videos has never been a problem, because for the longest time, a lot of the videos I made were also, in a way, kind of trying to fill the gap that my inner kid had. I may have learned horse racing through YouTube videos, but the truth is there was so much horse racing video content that I wish had been made that wasn't. Horse racing video content was so limited to republish documentaries, amateur tribute videos, you know the kind. If you've watched AMVs, you know the kind.
Yes, I have. Yeah.
They do that about horses. That's amazing.
Yes. Yep. Exactly. That was my childhood. Instead of Linkin Park with Dragon Ball Z and Pokemon, although it did also, although that was a small part of my life, it was horse racing and the Spirit Stallion, the Cimarron soundtrack. But all that is to say that while I do very much have great nostalgia for the videos back then, there were videos that I wish had been made. Analytical content, historical content, content with a horse racing personality and voice that did not exist for my younger self to watch. So these videos are for me now, but also me as a kid.
That is so cool. I just gotta say, that's so freaking cool. That's one of the coolest things ever. Is you didn't have that content, it didn't exist. This is a niche subject, and you're now the guy making that content. That is just too cool. I gotta say, you should feel accomplished just by the fact that you're making that content. And I 100% agree. Make the content that you want to make. George and I have been really on that train. We have had like a lot of time to do our YouTube stuff. We've had a game channel as well. And coming to that conclusion of like, listen, you make the content that you want to make, and you'll always make the best content that you can make. And so the fact that you're doing those two things, I legit commend you, because, you know, I've never been that interested in horse racing. I dated a girl in high school who was really into horses, and that kind of made me like not really interested in horses at all. She was a horse girl, as they say. Yeah, she was one of those. And I just never was interested. It was just something I was kind of like not into. But Uma Musume has really changed that, I think, for me. And I think people making, like yourself, making content that is palatable now, you know, Uma Musume bridging that gap, and for us to be able to now consume content like yours really goes such a long way. I think it's very impressive, and it's a wonderful thing you're doing. Yeah.
Yes.
And I do really want to also continue that. Like, it'll be for me, but I absolutely do want to also educate. And by educating, I will gladly make videos that revolve around kind of introducing people to horse racing, and kind of making kind of maybe grandiose, but also kind of introductory almost videos that are fun for me, but also can be picked up by someone who has no idea what horse racing is, but they'll find out anyway. Like, one of my big ultimate goals, besides giving back to my younger self, is to kind of capture the feeling that I got watching videos about subjects I previously had never heard of. And you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Where maybe it's late at night, you're sitting down, you're relaxing, and you're watching your YouTube videos, and you'll stumble upon a in-depth or very passionate video made by somebody about something you don't really know anything about. And yet, just the way it's presented is enough for you. I guess one example would be Summoning Salt.
Sure. 100%.
So, now you guys know Summoning Salt, but for anyone who doesn't, he makes long videos about the history of speedrunning video games. I know nothing of these video games. Like, sure, I'll watch a video about a game I like to play sometimes, like Punch-Out or Mario Kart, but I know nothing of the mechanics of speedrunning it.
Sure.
Or the people who play it. But you know what? He makes it interesting enough that I'll learn about it. And I think a lot of people who are, you know, watching this or watch your channel have definitely stumbled upon a video about a unique subject that you had no idea really existed, but after that video, you're really interested. And I think even anime kind of does that, not just with Uma Musume, but like, think of all the people who fell in love with figure skating because of that one series.
Sure.
Or volleyball, or learned about World War II battleships because now they're women. It's like...
True, 100%.
The whole thing is like that liaison of the subject.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, it's 100%. I couldn't agree more. There was one time I already liked the Mega Man series. I'm not too interested in the lore, but one time I saw this like completely comprehensive overview of all Mega Man lore ever, and it was like 8 hours long, and I was like, all right, I'm locking in. Let's go. I'm here
Eight
for this.
hours. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was amazing. So you're 100% right. Passion, there's something infectious about passion. And because you're choosing to make the content the educational and passionate about what you want to make it for horse racing, not people who exactly like you said, people who may not have any interest in horse racing at all may be interested just on the passion and the intrigue alone. Maybe there's that one thing, maybe they see Skibbity Riz and they go, that's so silly. Or maybe they see, Uma Musume and they're like, hey, I know that horse, right? And then then that's just kind of a launching off platform to get into the rest of it. So it's brilliant. It's a really brilliant idea. I'm really glad you're seeing success because it's great that you're passionate and it's great that you're so thoughtful about it too. And that's really the best content that you can make.
100%. For sure. Man, this could maybe go on. I know we booked you here for a little bit of time here. I mean, we could talk about this for 8 hours, 10 hours.
Sure.
This horse universe is incredibly interesting, and it's all so new to me. So before we go here, I just have a couple closing questions. We can't end here without asking you, what is your favorite either horse or racing region? And then 2, do you have any like projects or anything that you want people to be aware about before we let you go?
Okay. Favorite horse, my default's always going to be Seabiscuit. It's a classic story. It's my favorite film, favorite horse. It's an easy double whammy for me. Because I like a good film.
Sure.
Movies are probably the thing that I have the most passion for that is not horses.
Oh, interesting.
So having a great dramatic piece of horse film like Seabiscuit that was there for my childhood, and I get to go back and revisit it, retouch my roots, and still think this is an amazing movie all these years later about a timeless subject. A little horse that could. One of the most pure things in the world. That's Seabiscuit.
Cool.
Awesome.
Like before Cinderella Grey, my childhood was Seabiscuit. That was mine. People might be getting introduced to the underdog horse and Oguri Cap, but Seabiscuit's the original.
Interesting. Yeah, we're so excited to watch Cinderella Grey. We just, as George said, we just finished season 3, so Cinderella Grey is coming up, and we're really excited to check it out.
And hopefully I haven't spoiled it, but yeah, like
not at all.
But the idea of kind of an underdog horse, a horse that starts from the bottom and lose their way.
I love underdog
George.
Stories. I think I'm about to eat this up.
For America during the Great Depression, that was Seabiscuit. For Japan during the boom in the late 80s, that was Oguri Cap.
Interesting.
As you watch it, I'll have to watch it too. I just know the horse because I know the horse. That's just my thing. But I will devour it. It is going to be.
You should. You could check out our reactions to it too. I was just saying.
Yeah, we can have a fun discussion about it at some point.
That would be great. That'd be awesome.
Yeah,
that'd be wonderful. So, favorite region.
So, racing region. Okay, so Hong Kong, I think, is
interesting.
For a very specific region of racing, I think Hong Kong is one of the safest and easiest answers for me to go with because it's a horse racing metropolis. The horses there, they're all geldings, which means they're castrated. And without stud value, without that stud value, they race for longer. The schedule is well organized. You get to it's a lot easier to see these horses for years on end. And because of that, it unintentionally really plays into getting to follow and fall in love with the regulars. Because the horses there are so routine. They'll race, every 4 or 5 weeks for about 9 months of the year. Even the top horses, and they'll run for a few years, which is something you don't always get a guarantee of in almost any other racing region.
Gotcha.
it's a classic, trite, but just amazing region of racing that I can always count on. There are other great racing regions that I enjoy thoroughly all over the world, but in terms of just reliability, I have yet to be failed by Hong Kong.
Interesting. I had no idea.
What was the last question? Future projects?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Do you have anything you're working on that you want people, maybe you can give a teaser, or, what you want people to check out, anything like that?
So for things to check out, if you want an example of me at what I think is my absolute best and most determined, it is the Kentucky Derby Iceberg. I'll always say that is my personal proudest video I've ever made.
Okay.
Now, when I say this, I preface this by saying, watch as much as you want, because the video is 4 hours and 44 minutes long.
Wow.
Oh man.
Well, I mean, we have Graham over here who watched an 8-hour video.
But you know how you
on Mega Man.
You know how you. But yeah, you know how you're talking. Yeah, exactly. You know how you're talking about Mega Man.
That's right. I'm just saying.
I did that with the Kentucky Derby with its first 150 winners. That was me. That was my thing. That was my attempt.
Let's go.
And it took me 13 months. It only got about 3,500 views. So, so whenever I can, I try to promote it, especially as the Kentucky Derby builds up again, because that was the most effort because while I definitely put effort into calling Skibbity Riz and my college project with Uma Musume,
right.
13 months of my life, of course I'm gonna sing to the high heavens that I completed.
Yes.
So for projects I already did, if anyone wants a kind of a taste of like what I do at my most determined, that is definitely it.
Okay.
Now for future projects, I'm very kind of moody. Like I'll kind of work on, get distracted and do another project and bounce around a lot.
Sure.
It's one of my biggest flaws. But in terms of stuff that I think that I'm going to be making in the very, very soon future by the end of this month, is a 50 horse racing terms video, a video about just 50 horse racing terms that everyone should just know. Just kind of an introductory video, a good example of like kind of a video to educate that I think can help get more people up to speed very quickly, because I now have gotten this incredible special privilege where everyone's kind of looking at me like, can you help me? Get into the sport of horse racing. And with that privilege and that power comes great responsibility. So,
I mean, it's true though. It's true.
So that's my way of. So that's one project I'm going to try and make down the road to kind of give back and really kind of live up to my role that people have given me of horse educator. And hopefully deliver to the best of my ability. And the other one is just a fun video that I'm probably going to do. I like simulating horse races, and I'm going to try and do more kind of fun horse racing hypothetical simulations. And one I'm going to be doing is, the working title is the Agnes Derby. And the Agnes Derby, what people don't realize is that the title Agnes in horse racing is a crown name, which means that it's a name that is used by an owner to dignify that that's their horse. So any horse owned by that person gets the Agnes title. That's their thing. That's their mark. It's the same thing with Meijiro. That's why there's a Meijiro McQueen, a Meijiro Ryan, a Meijiro Arden, a Meijiro Dober. They were all owned by the same group, the same lineage sort of thing. Not family, but like same person.
Yeah.
And that's their signature. Same with Agnes. So, like, people think Agnes Tachyon from the beginning of the New Era movie, but that's far from it. So, simple fun video. Put 14 of the best horses with the name Agnes in the title in one little fun horse racing simulation. Who will win? Agnes Tachyon, Agnes Digital, Agnes Raspberry, Agnes World, Agnes Flora? Who knows?
It's like racing the whole Agnes house against each other kind of thing. That's cool. That's a very interesting topic. Wow.
Yeah, doing those versus videos is going to be hard, but I really want to nail it.
100%. It sounds very interesting. I don't know if you mentioned it. I have one final question for me is, do you have a favorite Uma Musume? Now, you may I don't know if you can differentiate the real horse from like the Uma horse, if there's a difference for you, but I'm talking more specifically about like a cute anime horse girl design. Who is your favorite Uma Musume?
I can disambiguate. I will always look at a horse first perspective, but the way that I kind of
Sure.
see it is that the way that I see it is not only just an aesthetically pleasing design, but a design and a kind of role in the story that is a perfect execution of the horse. In the sense that it personifies what the horse kind of meant at the time, but as an idea, because horses are ideas. And I think for the longest time, Goldship was my favorite design and kind of character because it was an easy comic relief and a fun distraction.
Sure.
In terms of actual designs, designs for the characters, I'm kind of cycling through them right now. I really like, in terms of actual design and maybe not just story thing, I really like Rice Shower. I like the rose in her hair.
Yeah.
I like the blue rose in her hair, or whatever the color, whatever the flower is.
Yeah.
The blue flower in her hair. I think that's really cute. I also like the one hair over one eye trope.
Sure. Very cute.
Especially but also it's cool because then we get to use it as a visual display of her power when you see two flaming blue eyes.
Yes, that's very cool.
Also, the fact that she has a knife for some reason, I think that's great. Who allowed that?
Yeah, right. Why does she have that? What is she going to use it for?
In terms of execution, in terms of characterization and execution in comparison to the horse, one that I'm going to really think about, that I really have been leaning towards a lot, I kind of bounce around a lot in terms of favorite characters, is TM Opera O.
Okay.
And the big thing about TM Opera O, without spoiling the OVA in the movies, is that her character, just like the horse, is portrayed not necessarily as a hero, but more as an omnipresent threat. Someone that is everybody's problem. Because the horse, during they had a perfect season in the year 2000. 8 wins, 5 G1s, more than any other racehorse in Japan. It is the perfect horse racing season in Japan. And but also she didn't win with the horse didn't win with glamour. They won effectively.
Sure.
They were streamlined, so they weren't as charismatic. So in a way, they were almost healed. They were thought of as a little bit of a heel,
Right.
In a sort of Rice Shower way. So having the character be sort of depicted as a boastful threat that is everyone's problem to deal with, because not only is she annoyingly cocky, the worst part is that she has every right to be.
Yes.
Because of and now TM Opera O was a more humble horse, but the cockiness is actually an integration of the horse's younger jockey. So that comes together to make that. So, the fact that they turned a horse whose whole thing is just winning a ton of races, being nearly perfect, and every other horse almost looking at them with envy. And then making that into the shiny, flowing, braggadocious character that they made in the OVA in the movie. I thought that was a perfect execution of a horse that fit the role of not being a hero, but played their role perfectly. Also, I just love their design because it makes me think of not just the lesbian flag, which is cool. it's a good color scheme, but it also makes me think of the peach crown in the Mario game, where the Bowsette meme where you have the crown.
Yep.
Yes.
And the crown is it's pink. It's a pink golden crown. And what does TM Opera O wear? A giant pink golden crown. So
it's perfect.
So I think of TM Opera O. It reminds me of it just reminds me of all those things. That's a long ramble, but yeah, those are all the things that I enjoy about TM Opera O.
Yeah, those characters that are incredibly cocky, but they can back it up, are to me at least, kind of annoying, but also kind of cool. And there's that like internal conflict because you're like, why do you actually have to be good? Why can't I just like write you off and like think you're annoying?
That's funny.
I love that
cool.
mixed I love those mixed feelings.
Yes. Yep. Exactly.
Yep, for sure. Well, Sketchy, this has been an absolute treat. We are ecstatic that you were able to come on and be our first TAC Time guest. It's been such a wonderful time. We literally, as George said, we can probably talk about this stuff for like till the end of time.
Yes,
so
you'll have to come back. We'll have to do this again.
We'll have you back 100%.
Sounds good, man.
Yeah, it's been so fun. Hopefully everyone will check you out on your YouTube page. That's your primary place that people can find you is on YouTube. Is that right?
Yes, YouTube. And now I know that, Twitter or X, I always use Twitter, use the word Twitter.
Either way.
will not bow down from that.
Sure.
And if you have a problem with that, politely talk to the hand. It's, but if you want to kind of see a different, like more horse racing centric, not horse racing centric, but like slightly more personal, look into my career as a race caller in the horse racing industry and like horse racing as a whole, not just horse racing history, but like very personal horse racing. You can check out my Twitter, Nathan the Caller. Okay. But for videos and history, come to Sketchy the Horse Guy.
Excellent.
Perfect. We'll definitely guide people to that. Yeah, I'm gonna check out that Kentucky Derby iceberg video.
Yes.
I'll definitely be checking that out. So hopefully, our viewers can check that out as well if they're interested. Thank you so much, Sketchy, for joining us for this. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have other creators that you'd like us to, bring onto TAC Time, put it down in the comments. But with that, we'll see you guys next time.
See you, everybody.
Take care.